We are in Pu'u Maka'ala Natural Area Reserve, and this reserve has been protected for decades with the intention of bringing Alala, which is a native frugivore, back into the wild in this area. Now Alala are across the landscape. They're foraging on native fruits. They're exploring their native habitat.
Alala are doing great. They're doing what they're supposed to do in the wild. We see them out foraging. They're interacting socially amongst each other. They're feeding on wild fruits and wild substrates. They're foraging for insects, and they're flying about the forest, and they're becoming more proficient flyers and more proficient at being what they're supposed to be, wild birds. Every day we have new observations of them. We're seeing their movements change. We hear a lot of begging calls. We hear a lot of subordinate begging calls. A lot of contact calls, obviously, throughout the day. Birds just, checking in on each other, letting each other know where they are, checking in on other birds. We hear different calls in flight, calls while perched. One vocalization of note that we've labeled the monkey call, but it's a type of cooing, pulsing call that the males do. And in talking with some of our colleagues, who have worked with Alala in the wild in the past, said it was a call that you would normally attribute to males trying to solicit breeding from the females during the solicit females, or in territoriality and territory defense. The males right now, they've been vocalizing it. We think right now they're just practicing it, but as we're approaching the breeding season, it may come into more context.
So we were releasing birds in the 1990s in habitat that was already occupied by wild birds. So we still had 3 wild pairs on the landscape at the time, and the juvenile birds were being released into habitat that wild birds occupied. There was more territorial behavior because of intra-specific competition between the wild adults and the juvenile birds. This current release of juvenile birds, there is no conspecific territoriality going on within the cohort. I would suspect that when we do future releases, we may see a little bit more territoriality occurring between cohorts, but we have not yet seen any of that sort of behavior occurring.
My generation has never experienced wild Alala, and even my parents' generation. And I hope that for the next generation, my children's generation, that they'll be able to see these birds in the wild, and that's kind of the motivating factor behind why we're out here today on a rainy day,